Hello, marvelous hearts. It is an honor and a pleasure to be here with you on Christmas Eve. Yay. I just feel so deeply and sincerely compelled in my heart to attune together to the palpable and exquisite dynamics of pure divine union and what this is and how it unfolds itself in our lives and in our experience. You know, this is in my experience, the master code of really unfolding the most mystically elucidating, enchanting, joyous, graceful, love-filled, prosperous, supreme divine reality that is available to us. And so what this looks like first and foremost is our own internal sovereign divine synergy with the truth and the nature of our ultimate self and being. Pristine, clarified, purely prolific consciousness that perceives all that is through the eyes and the lens and the heart eye of pure source. We come to see ourselves, all being self, in pristine clarity and truth, and we hold one another in the innocence and the purity and the beauty of our hearts, of our truth, you know. So first and foremost, this is internal synchrony. It's a pristine distillation of consciousness, and this gives us the capacity to see everything that shows up from the truth of love, all things being love, or a deep, deep, deep yearning for the love which we are, which gives us a capacity to hold all things and all beings in empathy and reverence and truth. And from this space of merging with the oneness of love operating, love's presence being the only presence operating everywhere, we then engage the dance of Hieros Gamos, which is heartlight to heartlight, God spark to God spark, divine flame to divine flame. And what our own being and divinity and eternal heart of love unfolds for us from this space is the most splendorous, magical, majestic existence that is available to us. This is truly, you can call it high magic. This is mastery in its most exalted expression. And what it calls forth of us is our devotional, slowed down, dropped in, harmonious presence from moment to moment to moment to unfold our legend. And I'm going to call this our legend because it is our legend. It is a legendary. I have a sweet and holy memoir of love letters and love notes and proposals and just such a repertoire of love notes from God directly to my being and to my heart and my soul, because my devotional communion with the divine is so rich and poignant. And so love, God, our own holy, magnificent I am presence and genius shows up for me in direct communion. It is so felt that it often moves me to tears of bliss and awe. And from that space, all that can arise is reverence and honor for life. And this is how we unfold our ultimate destiny timeline, our truest legend, the living legend of our own beingness. And, you know, as we navigate life, right, there's going to be people, places, things, experiences that are offering us misperceptions, unconsciousness, projections, narratives, and stories that are not rooted in the ultimate truth, perhaps a personal truth that is coming through a filter, a lens based on past experiences, cultural and ancestral conditioning, familial conditioning, what we listen to, what we read. We all know the ultimate truth and goodness and beauty and benevolence of ourselves and one another. And there's so many subtle, nuanced ways that the mind the logic, the fear, the analytics will get in the way, can get in the way of us softening and deepening into the highest and greatest love that is here for us. You know, there's something that has been prominent in conversation recently has been this idea of like getting to know one another, people. Of course, we all have our unique, multifaceted, novel emanations of divinity, but at our core, we are similar. And what arose for me in these discussions is we already know each other. If we know ourselves, we know each other. We know the truth of one another. We know the actuality and the goodness of one another's hearts. If we allow ourselves to see through the lens of purity and innocence and grace, to see to the core and the light and the divine spark of our own true being. And if we choose to meet one another in this space, this is how we upward spiral. This is how we proliferate the superabundant nature and essence and glory of our own being in this life. We choose to bolster and augment and encourage and serenade and love up on this core of truth within one another. And, you know, we all have our unique spaces of where we contract and we resist ourselves. We resist life. We are only resisting ourselves. We are only resisting love. There's avoidance, there's withholding love, there's fear that causes us to distance and separate, causing division. And it hurts to do this. And it hurts to do this because it's not the ultimate truth, not because it's a tough choice that has to be made, but because we are resisting the ultimate love and truth of our own being that wishes to flow forth from and emanate its majesty through all people, all beings, all intelligences. So if we can get the personality, all the layers, right? So an easy way for me to recognize this and discern deeply is through a core of empathy. It's either ultimate truth or it's not. And that, in that regard, it is so pristinely simple to filter and distill the pristineness of ultimate truth. It's either what love would think, feel, say, do, etc., or it's not. The narrative is either one of pure loving grace and empathy and compassion and exaltation of one another's true nature, or it's not. And all of those other things that are not that are purely unconscious illusion. Unconsciousness being where we see anything other than the presence of pure divine love operating everywhere at all times through all people and beings in all life. And this is our own inner content that we have to resolve, we have to release, we have to clarify if we wish to experience the purity of divine union unfolding itself timelessly in the here and now in our lives. It cannot be avoided. There is no cheat code or shortcut to this. We have to clarify those unconscious layers of Maya and illusion and illuminate our consciousness into the self-realized self-recognition that love's presence is the only presence here. And I love this quote from A Course in Miracles. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lives the peace of God. All of the internal turmoil, struggle, discord in our lives is generated solely, wholly, fully, and completely by our own internal misperceptions and unconsciousness. It is not the result of anything outside of ourselves. And so if we wish to experience divine union, we have to illuminate our own consciousness and devote our whole heart and being to being in service to the divine spark and love in all people and beings in life in all moments. This is the only way, and this is a bold statement, and it's true. This is the only way that the most supreme expression of divine union can unfold in our lives and on our planet. And this is why we see very few examples of what pure divine union looks like on our planet. There's one that I have in mind that to me is the closest thing to pure divine union that I have seen express since Magdalene and Yeshua. There's many variations of relationships, marriages, belovedship, all of this. But the pristineness of divine union calls us forth into the immaculateness of our mastery, and will allow nothing less. If you are lukewarm, I will spit you out of my mouth. Such a beautiful statement, because it's true. There's no space in this realm for wobble and wavering. Love commands and gracefully demands, through its resonance, our full devotion to being and living in our mastery, and the gift that we have for one another in sacred relationship, especially if we're a powerful light. I know my being does this. And I'm very well aware of what it is also that I have to polish and illuminate within my own being, where I observe and I look at, where is there misperception arising in my being? And I'm fully devoted to clarifying those spaces. They're not many. And there's still a very rigorous daily devotion to clarifying this from my being. And it shows up most prominently for me when I'm immersed in the unconsciousness of the world. We can all be masterful at this in our own space, and in the space of others who are highly conscious. You know, all of the relationships in my life have, there's this reverent devotion that is so strong and undeniable in its essence, that is present in all the relationships in my life and in my world. And in intimacy, what I notice is my being, because of the depth and vastness of mastery that I have cultivated within myself, I am an augmenting light, which means that in the presence of me, one or two things happen. People are profoundly inspired, elated, just enthralled, enlivened, energized by the majesty of wisdom and truth that flows through me, or it deeply triggers the parts of themselves that they are continuing to run and hide from, to avoid, to suppress. They don't want to look at it because the mind's trying to keep them safe. If I don't look at this thing, this is familiar. For me to live in the way that I have been living is familiar. It might not be serving me, but wow, this security blanket feels great. I know it. It's safe. It's comfortable. Meanwhile, the light of our eternal being, me in these instances, is like, hey, I've got this gorgeous, plush, velvety, like king-sized, voluptuous blanket that I want to gift to you. But if you are insistent upon holding onto the security blanket, the limitations, the unconscious perceptions, if you choose to continue to not look at them and clarify them, thinking that they're the result of something in the outer world and not in you that has to be clarified, then it's going to be a very challenging repetition of patterns in your life. And this energetic applies to all of us. And this is like a very real, sweet, exquisite, raw, and vulnerable transmission, because these things show up in the spaces of deep intimacy in our lives. And there has to be an unwavering, impeccable devotion to embodying our own ultimate illumined, enlightened nature essence and consciousness in there. And we actually have to do the inner play work of self-illumination in order to clarify our own perception. That is the only way that our true destiny unfolds in this life. And there's no amount of, I say you can shift the cast and the characters as much as you want, but wherever you go, there you are. And we always have to face ourselves We cannot run from ourselves, is what I'm essentially saying here. So we must become our true self, is the most sacred and powerful service that we can offer to life, because we illuminate our world from within. Essentially, it's all an inner game, all of it. As below, so above, as within, so without. Nothing that is unfolding in our world is the result of anything outside of us. We are the cause. We are the first cause and operant power of everything that shows up in our lives and in our world and reality. And as we navigate this existence, right? So it's just holding both worlds at once is what my experience has been this, is the ability to feel deeply. So my instrument is so attuned that I can hear the vibration of people's thoughts. I can see the cymatic geometry of sound. I'm quite literally daily living perceptually in a psychedelic experience without psychedelics. And it's very pronounced. So when I feel these narratives of unconsciousness come in, it strikes a chord in my being, but it also passes through because I feel the empathy for it. But sometimes it's so strong, and my being is so attuned to the frequencies of pure love that it just kind of it strikes it literally, because the resonance is so great in my being, measurably. I feel even the slightest nuance of that which is unconscious when it comes into my space and my field. And so I've had to really master this capacity to become transparent to that while holding it in a space of grace and empathy and recognition of that's not the ultimate truth. It might be a personal truth. It might be a perception that is colored by a lens of the past. It is not the ultimate truth of divinity. And so an ability as we navigate life to deeply discern through empathy and to hold empathy for these narratives and these patterns and programs when they arise in us and when they arise in those around us, and to continuously offer a supreme perspective, because that unified perspective of seeing all through the lens of source is required to live our greatest destiny in this life, and truly meeting one another with a devotion to, I am only here to uplift you. I am only here to encourage and cheerlead you. I am only here to see you thrive in your magnificence. And this is what we do for one another. This is our greatest service to one another, is to amplify, augment, and remind one another of the ultimate truth. And from this core, all things of marvelous wonder arise, and everything else takes care of itself. There's this saying that all you need is love. And I've heard people say also, love is not enough. And the truth is, love is more than enough. Love is all that we need. Because love is a self-organizing intelligence, it takes care of everything else. And we can often go through our lives trying to address all the superficial and shallow things on the outside. But those are just cosmetic, surface level aspects that are not the true core of from which all of those things arise. So if that's the level that we're trying to address things at, we'll be doing that forever. And we won't ever fully resolve it. To resolve ourselves into oneness, in unison, and illumination and love takes care of everything else. That is the power, that is the simplicity, that is the potency. It cares for it all in one swoop. It's so powerful and majestic and gorgeous. And so I invite us all, make this the most sacred aspect of your world, to become fully illumined in your recognition of one love, to rest into the perception, the trifecta of mastery. How does God see? How does God feel? And how does God love? And to devote ourselves to beingness to our fullest capacity, and to beingness in relation with one another. And as we navigate the more challenging aspects of our own being and our own relations with one another, to hold one another in our highest light through this, to be a sacred space, and to have full accountability for our experience. I'm fully accountable for every single thing that shows up in my reality. And you are fully accountable for every single thing that shows up in your reality. We can hold one another in a space of empathy and grace and compassion in this. What is possible is so beyond worth being presence to one another and ourselves in this way. Unconditional loving grace, empathy, and compassion. And to unfold our destiny ultimately by meeting with our own self in the true space in one another. Divine spark to divine spark. The profundity of goodness that is available for each of us from our devotion to this is unprecedented. And I would invite us to really honor this as one of the most sacred and glorious life-giving practices and awarenesses we could ever devote our being in life to. I love you all so incredibly much. And I hope this serves you at the deepest, deepest levels. And I look forward to connecting more soon. Take excellent care and happy holidays. Yay. I love you so much. Mwah.